Why did our solar system used to have 9 planets, but after 2006, only 8 remained? That year, scientists officially kicked Pluto out of the Planet Club. But what they didn't realize was that they had underestimated Pluto. In the very same year Pluto was stripped of its planetary title, NASA launched the Times New Horizons Times spacecraft, the first mission to explore this mysterious world up close, a world once known as the 9th planet. What they discovered was shocking. Everything we thought we knew about Pluto was wrong. The experts were wrong. Everyone was wrong, because it turns out Pluto is far richer and more mysterious than anyone ever imagined. It may no longer be a planet, but it's still one of the most dynamic and fascinating places in our entire solar system. You might be wondering, why was Pluto downgraded in the first place? Why did it lose its title as the 9th planet? I'd love to tell you it was part of a grand conspiracy, but the real reason is far simpler. Our definition of what counts as a planet has changed over time, and it's been changing for centuries. Back in the 19th century, when modern astronomy was still in its early days, people believed the solar system had around 20 planets. Every time someone spotted a new moon or a slightly larger asteroid, they'd announce it as a brand new planet. Eventually, things got chaotic, so astronomers decided it was time to set some stricter rules. That process has been going on ever since. In 1930, a self-taught astronomer and telescope maker named Clyde Tombaugh was hired to search for a mysterious Planet X and Ine. At the time, scientists believed something unseen was tugging on the orbits of Neptune and Uranus, hinting at another planet beyond. After 10 months of careful observation, Tombaugh noticed a faint moving light slowly drifting beyond Neptune. He was searching for a planet, and by the standards of the time, that's exactly what he found. Even though the criteria had tightened since the 1800s, there were still only 2 main rules for being a planet. First, the object had to orbit the sun, which is why moons didn't count, since they orbit planets. Second, it had to be unique in its orbital region, not just one of many similar objects, like asteroids. Based on what we could see then, Pluto checked both boxes. It appeared to be the only bright body out there on the solar system's edge. Unfortunately for Pluto, that turned out not to be true. The real turning point came in 2006, when the definition of a planet was updated. To qualify, a planet must have enough mass to clear its orbit, meaning it must dominate its neighborhood by sweeping up or absorbing nearby rocks and debris, like a cosmic vacuum cleaner. But as it turns out, Pluto isn't traveling alone in the outer darkness. It's just one member of a massive ring of icy bodies called the Kuiper Belt, the solar system's junkyard. All the leftover material that never formed, the inner rocky planets or the outer gas giants, ended up here, in this distant frozen ring. And Pluto isn't even the biggest object there, just the brightest. That's why we found it first, and assumed it was isolated. In fact, Pluto is one of the most reflective objects in the entire solar system, outshined only by Venus and Jupiter thanks to their thick cloud layers. From a distance, Pluto looks much larger than it really is, but Pluto's orbit is anything but ordinary. It's a stretched-out ellipse, sometimes bringing it closer to the Sun than Neptune, even nearing Uranus's orbit, and its orbit isn't flat either. While most solar system bodies move in a nearly level disk around the Sun, Pluto's orbit is tilted 17 degrees. That means it spends most of its time above or below that main plane, something that's hard to notice, since one trip around the Sun takes 248 years. For all these reasons, Pluto no longer fits the modern definition of a planet. But what makes it strange also makes it times cool. Asterisk. That's exactly why a team of engineers at Johns Hopkins University built Times New Horizons. Asterisk. They wanted to see just how strange Pluto really was. And, by coincidence, NASA launched the mission the very same year Pluto lost its planetary title. The biggest challenge? Distance. Pluto is incredibly times far away. Scientists didn't want to wait decades for results, so they made Times New Horizons, Times, light only about 454 kilograms, and launched it on the most powerful rocket available, an Atlas V, boosted by 5 solid rocket motors, producing nearly 900,000 kilograms of thrust. It blasted away from Earth, passing the Moon just 9 hours after launch, 10 times faster than the Apollo missions. A year later, it reached Jupiter, allowing NASA to test its imaging systems. It captured stunning photos of the planet and even a volcano erupting on its moon Io. But the real reason for the close flyby was to use Jupiter's gravity as a slingshot, catapulting Times New Horizons Times toward Pluto even faster. Even with that boost, it still took 8 long years to cross the solar system's outer edge. In 2015, it finally approached Pluto and began sending back images. At first, just 2 bright dots in the distance, Pluto and its largest moon, Charon, slowly growing closer day by day. Their relationship is remarkable. Charon is about half Pluto's size, and their orbit is extremely close, only 20,000 kilometers apart. For comparison, our moon is about 380,000 kilometers away. This near equal size and tight orbit create a fascinating tidal lock. Just as our moon always shows one face to Earth, Charon always shows the same face to Pluto, and Pluto does the same in return. If you stood on Pluto's far side, you'd never see Charon, but if you stood on the near side, Charon would hang eternally in the same spot in the sky. And because Charon is so massive, it doesn't truly orbit Pluto. The two actually orbit a shared center of mass that lies outside Pluto itself. It looks as though they're dancing around an invisible point in space. Some once speculated there might be a mini black hole there, but it's simply a quirk of gravity. Watching this cosmic waltz was only the beginning. As Times New Horizons Times drew closer, it captured the first real images of Pluto's surface, and they were breathtaking. Forget the idea of a plain blue ice ball. Pluto is a riot of colors: deep red, pale blue, white, yellow, and orange. Its most striking feature, a giant, bright heart-shaped region. That heart, made of smooth ice plains, covers an area about the size of Texas. The region, called Sputnik Planitia, shows no impact craters, meaning the surface is times active times and constantly renewing. At its edges are streaks formed by glaciers, flowing from mountain ranges of solid ice. But this ice isn't like Earth's water ice. In Pluto's extreme cold around -229 degrees Celsius, water ice is rock hard and brittle. Instead, the glaciers are made of nitrogen ice, frozen from the same gas that makes up most of Earth's atmosphere. Up close, Sputnik Planitia is covered in polygonal patterns, evidence of convection currents beneath the surface. Heat from Pluto's interior slowly rises, melting some ice, but in the vacuum of space, liquids can't stay liquid for long. They sublimate, turning directly into gas. Those gases rise to form a thin, hazy atmosphere. Even though Pluto's gravity is weak, the haze can extend far into space. The surface pressure is just 1/1,000,000th of Earth's. But when Pluto swings closer to the Sun, its atmosphere swells dramatically. The pressure can grow to 1/4 of Earth's, and even 3 times higher than Mars's, briefly allowing liquid nitrogen to exist on the surface. Now, look to the left of that heart-shaped plane, and you'll see a dark red region. It's called Cthulhu Macula, named after H.P. Lovecraft's cosmic monster. Why so red? Scientists believe it's coated with tholins, organic compounds created when sunlight interacts with methane and CO2 in Pluto's air. These molecules fuse, redden, and fall like radioactive snow across the surface. You can see those reddish stains scattered everywhere, hinting at how ice, gas, and maybe even liquid once flowed across Pluto's surface. And then there's Pluto's enormous ice volcano, right, Mons? It's about 5 kilometers tall and 150 kilometers wide, spewing slushy mixtures of water and methane. It's not the only cryovolcano on Pluto, just the largest one. We don't know how often it erupts, but the lack of impact craters suggests it's still geologically active, at least on a cosmic timescale. So where does all that subsurface material come from? That's one of Pluto's greatest mysteries. You might think Pluto is just a frozen rock, but evidence from Time's New Horizons times suggests otherwise. Its core is still warm enough to support a thick underground ocean of liquid water. That structure is similar to moons like Europa and Titan, which stay warm from their giant planet's tidal forces. But Pluto, it has no such parent planet. Its heat source is still unknown. Maybe it's radioactive decay. Maybe it's the result of an ancient collision. Whatever the case, Pluto shouldn't be this alive. And yet, it is. That brings us to Charon again, the key to Pluto's strange vitality. Because the two are nearly the same size, it's unlikely Charon was simply captured by Pluto's gravity. A more likely scenario is that, in the distant past, they collided violently, not enough to destroy either, but enough to fuse their fates forever. That energy may have reheated Pluto's interior, fueling its ongoing activity today. Interestingly, that iconic heart-shaped plane sits directly opposite Charon's orbit, probably not a coincidence. You can even see reddish deposits on Charon's north pole, likely material blasted off Pluto during volcanic eruptions, launched into space, then captured by Charon's gravity. Sadly, the breathtaking images we have now may be the only ones we'll ever see. NASA has shifted its focus to worlds closer to home, like Titan, Europa, Venus, and Mars. For now, there are no plans for another Pluto mission, but Time's New Horizons times itself is still out there, sailing deeper into the Kuiper Belt, past countless icy bodies, each with its own story to tell. Pluto may not be a planet anymore, but it remains one of the brightest, strangest, and most unforgettable worlds in our solar system. And as Time's New Horizons times continues its journey into the unknown, one thing is certain: the story of Pluto is far from over.